Hey everyone, happy 4th. So we have not had an educational video in a minute. So in this video, we are going to learn how to identify and how to deal with someone that has a victim mentality. Now, I know the word victim can be triggering for some viewers, so trigger warning. Now, if you ask me, victimhood is kind of like pop culture right now. It's spreading like wildfire. We are going to refer to somebody with victim mentality as VM. And before we get into how to identify someone with VM, I'm going to go over one of their tactics. And then I'll be reading from an article that came from HealthLink and one from Psychology Today, of course. Because I feel like as us being functioning members of society, we should know how to navigate around individuals with VM. Don't forget to follow or subscribe, and I hope you take away something from this video. And I am so sorry if you're hearing fireworks in the background. This is part of the reason that I wanted to make this video, because people who suffer from a victim mentality like to manipulate others into outrage. I do not tell other people how to feel, and nobody should be telling me what I should be outraged about and what I shouldn't be outraged about. And they do this to validate their feelings of persecution, deflect personal responsibility, and outsource their emotional regulation. When you express anger on their behalf, it acts as proof to them that they were indeed wronged without them having to do the hard work of addressing the issue themselves. Psychologically, this dynamic revolves around several key factors: validation and sympathy. Outrage from others serves as ultimate validation. It tells the individual that their suffering is seen and that they are justified in their powerlessness. It's also for delegated accountability. By getting you to fight their battles and becoming outraged, they avoid the vulnerability of being assertive and taking direct action. You're doing the hard work for them. Another driver is to shift the focus. If you become angry, the conversation shifts from their original mistake or shortcoming to your emotional reaction. They can then frame you as the problem or the aggressor. They also do it, obviously, especially here on social media, for drama and attention, often referred to in psychology as a secondary gain. Occupying the center of a dramatic, high emotion situation strokes their ego and brings them significant attention. So stop giving it attention. And people are really not as self-aware as they may seem. Experts at ReachLink explain that this behavior is often a deeply ingrained subconscious coping mechanism used to maintain control in relationships, while people who have experienced genuine trauma sometimes need validation to heal. Those habitually playing the victim use outrage to exploit the sympathy of others. And not everyone that experiences genuine trauma comes out with a victim mentality. And there's not always outrage because somebody was manipulated into it. Sometimes it's just flat out selective outrage, which is the inconsistent application of moral indignation or anger, where a person or group harshly condemns a specific behavior in some instances, but ignores, justifies, or downplays the exact same behavior in others. Kind of like how mommy murderer Gypsy Rose Blanchard cut up that blanket for Ken and everybody was justifying that behavior. Selective outrage. And then another reason why people have selective outrage is because they use it as a tool to gain social approval or likes on social media, resulting in people jumping on popular bandwagons while ignoring similar, less publicized issues. Okay, so now that we've talked about manipulated outrage and selective outrage, let's go back to identifying victim mentality. VM can also be referred to as victim syndrome or a victim complex, and it rests on 3 key factors. Bad things happen and will keep happening. Other people or circumstances are to blame, and any efforts to create change will fail, so there's no point in trying. The idea of the victim mentality is thrown around a lot in pop culture and casual conversation to refer to people who seem to wallow in negativity and force it upon others. One main sign that someone may have this type of mentality is the lack of accountability. And this involves placing blame elsewhere, making excuses, not taking responsibility. And another thing is not seeking possible solutions. So people that have this type of mentality, they take actions that actually make it worse instead of fixing it. People who come from a place of victimization may show little interest in trying to make changes. They may reject offers of help, and it may seem like they're only interested in feeling sorry for themselves. People who see themselves as victims may struggle with self-confidence and low self-esteem, and this can make the feelings even worse. And living in that mindset can definitely take a toll on emotional well-being. They may feel frustrated and angry with a world that seems against them, hopeless about the circumstances never changing, hurt when they believe loved ones don't care, or even resentful of people who seem happy and successful. So what happens is they stew in these unresolved emotions and they just fester, and that can lead to angry outbursts, depression, and isolation. Another reason I wanted to make this video is because this mentality is so prominent in a bunch of true crime cases. Having this victim mentality helps them avoid accountability time and time again. Look at Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And look at this case right here that I'm going to be making a video about hopefully tomorrow. Little angel baby Casper O'Brien, 7 years old, 255 pounds, morbidly obese, passed away because his heart just purely gave out. And his mama is talking about her depression. That is that victim mentality I'm talking about, that lack of accountability. And I am just sick and tired of people using this mentality or using the fact that they had prior bad instances happen to them as a way of justifying doing all these effed up things to other people. And a lot of times with the victim mentality, these people have actually been victimized at some point, and this emerges as a coping mechanism. Some people who take on the role of victim might seem to enjoy blaming others for problems they cause, lashing out and making others feel guilty, or manipulating others for sympathy and attention. But Botnick suggests toxic behavior like that may be more associated with narcissistic personality disorder. They kind of all run together. For those of us that don't have a victim mentality, we need to remember that many people living with this mindset have faced difficult or painful life events. But at the same time, we have to set healthy boundaries. And this doesn't mean you have to take responsibility for them or accept accusations and blame, but try to let your empathy guide your response along with setting boundaries. We can also attempt to compassionately bring up their specific behaviors like the complaining, the negativity, shifting blame. And yes, it is tough to help or support someone whose perspective seems to differ greatly from reality, but you have to detach as much as you can from their negativity and hand the responsibility back to them. And some of you may walk away from this video wondering if you have a victim mentality, if you do believe you're always a victim of circumstance and that the world has treated you unfairly or that nothing ever goes your way, you may want to talk to a therapist. Now, if you've made it this far into this video, I want you to leave a comment with someone that you think has a victim mentality. As far as I know right now, medical and mental health professionals do not consider VM to be like a disorder or a diagnosis. In this article from Psychology Today, it talks about Israeli researchers who conducted a set of 8 separate studies to identify, test, and measure a personality construct they term tendency for interpersonal victimhood, or TIV. They define TIV as an enduring feeling that the self is a victim across different kinds of interpersonal relationships, and they have identified several core components of TIV, including this need for recognition, for their victimization to be seen and recognized by others. Moral elitism, where they see oneself as morally pure or immaculate and seeing those who oppose or criticize them less than. There is also a massive lack of empathy, having little empathy or concern for the suffering of others because their own victimhood is so much greater than everyone else's suffering. Rumination, a strong tendency to brood and remain extremely fixated on times, ways, and relationships where they experience victimization and being taken advantage of. Another characteristic is they tended to attribute negatives to other people and rarely to themselves. Think back to the interview that Gypsy Rose Manson gave about Mackenzie Shirilla. People high in TIV tended to have attachment styles that were more anxious, but were less likely to be avoidant in relationships. With all the different personalities and the things that I see on social media, I really wanted to touch on this victim mentality. The main interest, though, is how it relates to true crime. So in my next educational video, we will go deeper into that. But to start us off, this victim mentality, no matter what the circumstances are, operates on both sides of the law. This allows perpetrators to justify actions and avoid consequences by claiming they are the actual victims. And then don't forget to comment about your experience with someone with this type of mentality, even if it's you. Let's talk about it.